NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
Welcome into the 2024 season. This is the Victory Sports Network. I am Jason Dannelly, and it's time for all things NAIA football as we get this opportunity to talk about the upcoming first full week of NAIA football. We've got games on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, nearly a full slate of games as we get set to kick off the NAIA football season. Coming up a little bit later on here in the program, we'll have Pete Stanton joining us. He's from Dickinson State University. He is the head coach there, and his squad will be taking on Rocky Mountain College in Dickinson this Thursday night. We'll get the opportunity to talk to Coach Stanton here momentarily, but first, we take an opportunity to talk about some of the games, well, two of the games that happened this last weekend before we break down that schedule. And as always, to help me do that is Mr. Pat Donley, the other half of the NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley. Pat, good to see you, man. How's it going?
Jason, doing well. Hopefully you're doing well as well. We have some games to talk about. Two barn burners yesterday in the NAIA. Yeah. Sorry for the sarcasm there. But the good news is we have great games coming up just in a few days on Thursday, starting off with some blockbuster games. So old week 0 in college football.
Yeah, the thing that always gets me, and you hate to put too much on a week 1 game, but we've got some non-conference games that will start having, they'll have some implications 12 weeks from now when we go into the postseason, because people will come back and say, well, team from Conference A beat team from Conference B, therefore Conference A is better than Conference B. And we're basing that on, 2 weeks of fall camp and the opportunity to play a first game someplace against an opponent you normally don't get the chance to do. So it'll be interesting this week to see how some of those games shake out.
Not only are they interconference battles, but from long distances. You see Georgetown flying to Montana, which is awesome. You're seeing some teams that definitely would not play one another unless it'd be a playoff scenario. So, tip your cap to those athletic departments, and the programs are probably doing some fundraising and things of that nature to make those trips. And it really makes a great opportunity for guys like us to talk about some exciting games in week 1 this upcoming week.
Yeah, the thing I look at, and the thing I really like with the changes to the NAIA postseason, is you can play these games and there's less implication towards your ability to make the postseason. What I mean by that is all you have to do is go out and win your conference. If you win your conference, you deserve to be in the postseason. It doesn't matter now if you're rated 19th, 21st, 24th, unrated. You win your conference and you're in. So now when Georgetown and Montana Tech play, while there's ratings implications there, if whoever loses this game still has the opportunity to run the table in their conference, still make the postseason, and not have it come back and bite them in that week 12 rating, where all of a sudden we start looking at this and we say, well, geez, they lost there, so we're going to jump this team over this team, and now these guys are going to get held out of the playoffs. Now, with the changes in the postseason, you win your conference, you're automatically in, and I hope it opens us up to the opportunity for more of these games to happen.
Well, I certainly hope so, and I know there are challenges with costs involved, and I would assume Georgetown's doing a charter, which is a significant undertaking for a department, but so cool. I think it's fantastic. So if Coach Oliver's involved in that, or whomever at Montana Tech making it happen, I think it's wonderful. I love seeing those matchups, and we're seeing a few more. Well, a couple more we're going to talk about as well. But that makes this affiliation strong. We're not just seeing regional matchups. Obviously we have our great conference matchups. But you take, the Frontier, which is arguably the deepest conference, which we talked about extensively last week, and have a team from the final that made the Final Four last year coming out there. That's pretty cool. So, more of that, the better, I think, for our affiliation. And there's some big games like we talked about, Jason, that, I'm looking forward to preview here momentarily.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of a review of what things looked like last weekend, just yesterday, actually, in NAIA football. There's two games on the slate. One we'll spend a little bit more time talking about. Number 4, College of Idaho, played host to Lincoln University of California. I actually got an email today from USA Today asking if I have a roster for Lincoln of California. They kind of did a little bit of an expose on this university last February, and they're just trying to track down and see who's actually playing for Lincoln. If you look at the statistics on the NAIA website, there's just initials. There's not really names or anything like that. So a little cloak and dagger scenario maybe still with Lincoln of California and who's actually playing on that team. As we talked about last week, this is a 4-year institution accredited, so the game counts, but they are not a member of the NCAA. They are not a member of the NAIA. They're not a member of the NCCAA, USCAA, any of those affiliations. Therefore, eligibility does not have to be ran before this game. So if you're enrolled at Lincoln, you can play for their football team. And this game, 45-7, College of Idaho had a 21-0 lead at halftime. I did watch the entire first half, and it was kind of an ugly football game, Pat. I mean, College of Idaho was the better team here. They looked like a team, as I talked to Coach Morosky last week, that came into camp the same time everybody else came into camp this fall. But had one less week to prepare for their first game. They had some sloppy tendencies. They looked good at times. But if you look at the penalties there under the Lincoln stat line, 13 penalties for 85 yards for Lincoln, 10 for College of Idaho for 94 yards. There was just no flow to this game. It wasn't a scrimmage, but it was essentially a scrimmage for College of Idaho as they start getting into the regular season now. They were the better team, the more disciplined team, the more seasoned team, obviously, in this game. Lincoln had some ball players. They put a lot of pressure on Andy Peters in that first half that I was able to watch last night. And you saw that a little bit. You know, he was hurried. He was maybe miscalculating on some throws. But, you know, overall in this game, College of Idaho, the better squad.
Well, I'm sure. You know, it was kind of interesting to see, you know, not a huge amount of production for Andy Peters and a couple of interceptions as well, kind of going along the lines of what you're talking about, some extreme pressure and maybe hurrying some throws and some decisions from that great quarterback from College of Idaho. It's one of those things where, you know, you kind of give credit to College of Idaho playing a team like this because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, you can get dudes that have played somewhere, you know, that were on TV not too long ago. There's no eligibility. You never know what you're getting yourself into. So, and you give them credit for taking it on. At the same time, you know, you hope it's competitive. You hope it's, you know, you come out healthy, certainly, and hopefully that you know, the Coyotes did. But yeah, it's good to get a game like this under your belt as you get into this tough conference schedule that College of Idaho has. So, you know, yeah, it's probably a glorified scrimmage, but at least you're tackling someone else, you're blocking someone else and competing. So, you know, hopefully that group stayed healthy as far as we know that they did. You know, moving on to week 2 or week 1, I guess, you know, that was week 0.
So Weber International won this game. That is wrong. Where I have Fort Lauderdale with 7, 14, 6, and 3. That is actually Weber's stat. So just pretend that is moved up one line there. Weber wins this game 40-0. Trent Grotjen, 10 for 12, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Running game, pretty crisp. 3 touchdowns on the ground. Weems had 33 yards. Scarborough had 40 yards. Dickens, 71 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. You know, Fort Lauderdale, not an NAIA school. They are accredited 4-year institution. They're a member of the NCCAA, the National Christian Collegiate Athletic Association, but not an NAIA school. So this was a game Weber should win. Weber won it. They forced a lot of turnovers from the University of Fort Lauderdale. So at the end of the day, not 2 terribly exciting games, Pat, to kick off the NAIA season. Last year, we opened up with a huge rivalry, Jamestown and Valley City State on a Thursday night. It was awesome to kick off the season. This weekend, there were some games, wet the whistle a little bit. Now we move on to this week's games. And boy, there are some great ones, starting with some Thursday battles in NAIA football.
Love this one right here. The first one you pop up, Jason. So we have Lindsey Wilson. I'm not sure where they're flying out of. Nashville, Louisville. Not real sure, but they're flying probably down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think this is awesome to see. We've talked about Texas Wesleyan, a little bit in the previous weeks, and kind of that program on the rise, and one of the very, very best recruiting bases in the entire country in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I think this is really exciting. And Lindsey Wilson, obviously being a perennial power the last handful of years. So can't wait for this one. This is going to be really, really cool to see. Is this on Thursday, Jason? I'm sorry, I don't have the.
I'm gonna kick ahead. I'll have to kick ahead to the schedule here to remember for sure. I cannot remember if this one's on Thursday or Saturday. But I'm with you, Pat. You got a Mid-South Conference team going against Texas Wesleyan. Texas Wesleyan, a team up until a field goal went through the uprights by Louisiana Christian last year. Texas Wesleyan was going to be in the NAIA postseason. So this is a team with a new head coach, a solid base for a program that has been right on the cusp the last couple of years, that needs kind of a signature out of conference win. They need to win this game against Lindsey Wilson to, up the respect of the Sooner Athletic Conference and of their own program, that, they're not just going to go 8-2 this season and run the table in their own conference, that they can actually beat top competition from outside of the Sooner Athletic Conference. So an important game, for the Rams and, obviously for Lindsey Wilson, who was just on the outside of the postseason last year. I mean, they were one of the first teams just left out. So I love this. I love the fact that we've got the Mid-South Thursday game.
Thursday night.
Excellent.
6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern. Can't wait. That'll be a great one.
That'll be a good one. Another one coming up this week, number 3. This is probably the premier game of the week. You've got number 3 Georgetown going on the road to take on number 21 Montana Tech in Butte, Montana. You've got some travel involved, obviously, for the Tigers. The Ore Diggers playing this one at home. I love this. I love the fact that you've got two what I would consider to be blue blood programs in NAI football duking it out week 1 against one another.
Love it. And what a setting that will be in the beautiful part of the world as the Big Sky Country, Butte, Montana. What a cool stadium Montana Tech has. I guarantee the Ore Digger fans are going to be out in force Thursday night. That's going to be a cool environment to watch. It'll be a great environment, great setting for NAI football. And like you said, two blue bloods, perennial powers, both teams that are vying to really make a deep run this year. And in Montana Tech's case, maybe to push and win that league, which is going to be so competitive and so deep. So this is a great way to kick off the NAIA schedule, like the previous game we just talked about. Maybe it's Coach. I'm guessing this has been in the works for a while. You think is Coach Oliver, working behind the scenes, and Lindsey Wilson getting the game to Texas before he left, and now the Montana Tech thing. I'm guessing this had to happen and be planned for some time. But this is going to be a good one. And the big thing, Jason, you just mentioned the travel. NAIA programs don't take cross country flights like the Big Ten's going to do this year, for instance.
Yeah.
This is going to be a challenge, but I will tell you, I know Coach Oliver has great experience in travel and dealing with distractions and things of that nature. So I expect the Tigers to come out very, very sharp in a first game in a big environment, a big game. So I expect them to play very well, and this is going to be a great football game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of players that are going to be in this game, Pat, that we're on the NAIA 99 list. Quarterbacks, running backs, defensive ball players. I mean, so you've got obviously the ratings show they're two of the better teams in the NAIA, but in the regular season, you don't often get matchups like this. So to get one of these outside of the conference, I love it for NAIA football. It's going to be absolutely great. I'm definitely looking forward to checking in and seeing what happens with that game. Now, a game that we will have the head coach on for Dickinson State in just a little bit, happening Thursday night in Dickinson, North Dakota. Rocky Mountain out of Billings, taking that trip down I-94 to link up in Dickinson, North Dakota to play this one on Thursday night. These teams traditionally play each other non-conference about the first week of the year every year. Last year it was Rocky getting this one. Dickinson getting the game at home this year. This is a game, so maybe some information for you, Pat. I don't do this very often, especially in my elevated age of 44 and the fact that we can watch all these games on streams. I will be at this game Thursday night.
Cool.
In attendance on the sideline, hopefully not getting my knees taken out.
It's like 4 hours from you. Is that still a good drive?
Yeah, well, I have got some work obligations that are going to have me out in that area of the state, so I
Fantastic.
just said, you know what, we're gonna double dip on this one. So a
Awesome.
couple meetings for the job, and then spend the night and watch some football, and get up the next morning and go right back to work.
Fantastic. It's good to have boots in the ground in a big football game like this. So yeah, like you talked about last year, Rocky in at hosting Dickinson State at home last year, won a 20-19 game. So it was the only regular season loss that Dickinson State had last year. So they're going to work to avenge that loss. This will be we talked about the last year of the conference for Dickinson State. It's going to be a big deal to start the year off well in a non-conference to bolster them to the last year of this league, but then join the Frontier next year. So it's going to be a really interesting deal. I would assume have they created the divisions yet for the Frontier in the future yet? I assume
I have not seen where they have
discussed.
announced it yet, but I would be more than willing to bet that Rocky will be on the half of the conference with Dickinson, Dakota State, Mayville State, Valley City State. It's just kind of where that divide goes after that. Does Northern come over, and then do you split like Montana Tech and Carroll into other halves of the conference? It'll be interesting. Looking forward to it. And rumor is, there could be other additions coming into that conference. So, and I can't, really tell you what those are, but that's what people are saying. People are saying
this is a rivalry, and it should continue. So that's the cool thing about this. But just tremendous football game last year at Rocky, and now in North Dakota, and looking forward to this one. You're going to be there, boots on the ground, and can't wait for that full report.
Going to be awesome. Another rated matchup. This was a great game last year between Benedictine and Morningside. They played the game in Atchison, Kansas. This year, they're playing it in Sioux City, Iowa. Morningside coming in at number 10, maybe with some more experience at the quarterback position, but not really a solidified quarterback position yet. There's still some scuttlebutt as to how the Mustangs are going to unveil things on their offense this year. I love that about Steve Ryan. About every year, you don't know about something with his team, and he's got it figured out. The rest of us have to guess until the season actually happens. So looking forward to what he unveils with their offense. And then, Benedictine, they played very tough last year. They were close in this game. Coach Osborne's going to have his team ready to go on the road and try to get this win, not just for his program, but also, it kind of helps him out in the Heart of America Athletic Conference to give them a little more strength of schedule. Because if you remember last year, there was three teams that tied for the conference championship, all right on the corner of the playoffs. Only one of them made the postseason, and Mid-American Nazarene and Benedictine were two that were left out despite being a three-way conference champion. So Benedictine with a lot to prove in this game going on the road against one of the traditional GPAC powers and national powers, Morningside.
No doubt. This is a repeat of the 2018 national championship, correct? I think it is. Yeah.
I believe that is right. Yep.
Yeah. Traditional powers. I love seeing this. Again, these are, not terribly far away from one another, but they're two different, powerhouse leagues, two of the blue bloods, if you will, opening the season against one another. I think that's tremendous. Again, great on those athletic departments making this thing happen. I like we interviewed Coach Ryan a handful of, I guess, a month or so ago, a couple months ago. Yeah, it was a great interview. And we really didn't get into the whole quarterback situation, knowing that we'd get to this point where there's going to be a discussion point with what they did last year and playing multiple guys. So I can't wait to see what Coach is going to do. I'd be surprised. I shouldn't say I don't think it's going to happen, but I would be surprised if there's not a guy that's solidified, that we don't have a guy for the Mustangs that's going to be the guy that won the job in camp, that they're moving forward with, and, hitting the reins to him exclusively, because there are three, I think, that played significant time last year. Really, I think two primarily, but three total did play. And they're all back from what I understand. I think in your preview we saw that. This is going to be really interesting to see what they plan on doing. But I can tell you, I know watching those guys play last year, they all bring something unique to the table. So you're kind of wondering how the offseason, how that development, how the progression, maybe physically, maybe understanding the system better, if someone really emerged and is going to take this thing over. So it's going to be really exciting to see Thursday night.
One thing I do know, that is a Saturday game.
Saturday. I'm looking through my list here. Sorry.
That's all right. That's why I got them pulled up here. I forgot about
Saturday night game
already. Saturday night going to be a good one. I do know one thing about Morningside this year, and that is that Lennox Brown will be involved in the offense, whether that's at the quarterback position, wide receiver position, kind of a running back position. He's a great athlete, scored a lot of points. He was the second leading rusher in the Great Plains Athletic Conference last year as a quarterback. So he's going to be a guy that'll have the ball in his hands this year. We will wait to see what that means on Saturday. We go to the KCAC interconference game, but yet from other sides of the division, I think. Anyway, you got Evangel and Kansas Wesleyan. Evangel made the postseason last year. Kansas Wesleyan held out by tiebreaker as Ottawa University made it in over them. Kansas Wesleyan has a lot to prove this year, and they can start things off on the right foot with a win at home against Evangel. Evangel has a lot that they have to replace on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, a lot of key positions there, but their defense is stout. And a lot of these games early in the season, when you've got the upper hand defensively, that's going to give you the opportunity to potentially win one of these games that are close, tight-knit ball games. So K-Dub and Evangel in an opening KCAC battle that will have implications 12 weeks from now. All these games will, but good to see two rated teams duking it out here in week one.
Another great thing to see. Yeah, another big game in the Plains area. I think it's just wonderful to see two teams that had tremendous years last year, have high hopes again this season to start things off here week one, right at it. I absolutely love this. We talked about it with the other matchups so far. This is just great to see. I don't know if I've remembered this being quite this way, Jason, the type of matchups that we have this year of ranked opponents, and then put on top of, a cross-country travel for some of those great matchups. So this is as good as I can remember being involved in this affiliation for many years.
Well, and especially the fact that we're getting this opportunity for teams to play out-of-conference games against top-rated opponents. We haven't seen that. And so many teams just get into, playing the 10 conference games, and that's their entire schedule. So anytime we can see non-conference games, it's great. Granted, this KCAC is a crossover game, much like one of the other big games that we've got coming up here to preview, that being Southwestern and Ottawa. Southwestern was the favorite in their half of the conference last year in the KCAC. Ottawa ends up going to the playoffs. Southwestern maybe doesn't achieve what they wanted to, but Coach Griffin's going to have those guys going this year. It'll be interesting to see how the Mound Builders respond on the road first week of the year. Can they make a statement and put the right foot forward to have that season that they wanted to have last year? Or, and knowing a little bit about Ottawa and Coach Nick Davis down here, they have heard from the people out there, they've heard the rumblings that have said, this is the worst team ever to make the playoffs. This team barely was 500. This team shouldn't have been in the playoffs. Trust me, Ottawa has heard that, and they have got a chip on their shoulder to go out and prove that they should have been there last year, and they're proving to be there this year. This game gets it started.
Absolutely. Just like you said, the situation last year with them making the playoffs, Ottawa making the playoffs, and Southwestern, wanting to take a shot at a playoff team, but at the same time, like you mentioned, Ottawa, it's barely a 500 team. You get the automatic qualifier. I'm sure they're tired of hearing that. It's been motivation for the entire offseason. So you jump right into it, and a crossover game within the league, and two good competitive opponents going head to head early in the year. There will be tons of electricity, I guarantee. You said it's in Ottawa?
Yep, at Ottawa. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be an awesome one.
Yeah, Ottawa's got a nice little campus, a great little field there. We actually had the First Down Classic between Ottawa and Baker back in 2010 on Ottawa's campus. They do things really well there. Now, if I was smart, I would have put the actual full schedule up first, Pat. This way we wouldn't have to go, is that game Thursday? Is that game Saturday? Is that game Thursday? But here's the full schedule as it looks for this week. You've got Reinhardt taking on Division II Carson Newman. This is not quite the game, that it was years ago when Carson Newman was a power in Division II. Reinhardt, very winnable game for them. They could go on the road to Carson Newman and win this game. Also, you've got several other conference games here. Pikeville gets an opportunity to start things off right. A matchup of former conference foes as Valley City State goes to D2 Minot State. They were in the DAC together. We talked about Lindsey Wilson and Texas Wesleyan and Georgetown and Montana Tech. And we have the inaugural Billy Bowl. William Woods, William Penn. It's the Billy Bowl in Oskaloosa, Iowa.
Let's go.
I don't know if that's official or not. I
Right.
heard somebody referenced it to me as it being the Billy Bowl. So, if William Wood's first game, they go on the road to William Penn. That'll be a tough road game for them. And I love seeing
It's
new
a
programs.
battle of wills. Oh, that was terrible.
It is a battle of wills.
That's so terrible. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Pete Stanton going to be joining us here momentarily. We'll run through the rest of these games. You've got, of course, Jamestown, who is in the North Star Athletic Association this year, going up against a former conference foe, I should say, in the University of Mary, and a future opponent of theirs in the Northern Sun when Jamestown goes Division II next year. North American playing FCS, Stephen F. Austin State University. That'll be
Lucky that one.
That'll be a football game. Rocky Mountain, Dickinson State. You've got Montana State Northern going to Mayville, Dakota Wesleyan, Dakota State. And then we've got 2 Friday games. I don't know. I'm not a fan of college football on Fridays. That's high school football night. But, hey, it's NAIA football, so I'm still going to watch it. You got Bluefield going to Thomas and Clark of Iowa going to Midland. They'll play that game in Fremont for the Friday night game there. And then the Saturday schedule looks like this. You've got Kentucky Christian and South Carolina Central Christian and NCCAA school. Fort Lauderdale going against St. Thomas. We'll get to see that running game of St. Thomas in action finally on Saturday. And a whole slew of other games. You can see them there. Any ones on that list that pop off the sheet to you a little bit? For me, Faulkner and Southeastern. I want to see what Faulkner's got this year. They've been down on their luck the last couple of years. Southeastern's a quality Sun Conference school. It could be a game to get Faulkner turned around a little bit, but Southeastern also could be vying for, some playoff consideration out of the Sun Conference.
No doubt. And again, tremendous areas we talked about 1,000 times. Faulkner's been a power. We've known them to be very formidable over the years and having great talent from that part of the world. In Southeastern, like you said, tremendous facility. I think a new football coach, and Coach Wall, I believe, is there now as the head football coach. They were a 6 or 7 win team last year, Jason, if I'm not mistaken, kind of in the mix there in the Sun Conference. So looking forward to seeing what they do this season. Another game that's interesting to me is Olivet Nazarene with a new football coach. Coach Vontae Mitchell now is there that was at Lawrence Tech, now at Olivet Nazarene against Concordia in their last football season, which we touched on last week. Their last football season of their program's existence, for at least right now, coming up here. So I'm anxious to see what the Cardinals have, that chip on their shoulder, last competitive football season of what they're going to bring to the table. So I think that could be an interesting game as well.
And the rest of the Saturday schedule looks like this. A reminder, we'll have Pete Stanton joining us in just a little bit here on NAIA football with Dannelly and Donley. We'll talk about Dickinson State and Rocky in just a few minutes here. We'll get through the rest of the schedule. We talked about a couple of these games on here. You've got Bethel and Sterling. That's probably a game we're going to see the ball ran a whole lot. Peru State at Hastings is one that is of interest to me. Peru State looking like they could be kicking things up a notch this year. They could compete for a postseason opportunity. Hastings is a team that's on the rise out of the GPAC. And then on the rest of the schedule, you've got Waldorf, a new team in the GPAC, going to Concordia. Anything standing out to you there, Pat?
No, I think what you said, a couple of those league opponents, I think are interesting to see what, how things kick off. And I think more of the same. We touched on the big ones coming up. But first week is going to be exciting for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. The rest of the games on Saturday. You've got Texas College going to Central Methodist. Interesting intra-conference game between Central Methodist, who was kind of at the bottom of the HAC last year, and Texas College, who was kind of at the bottom of the Sooner Athletic Conference, playing one another. And then you've got Simpson playing their first game in the history of their program against number 3 College of Idaho. So that will be
good luck,
a football
Simpson.
game. Yes,
yep.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least, with some of these games. But the NAIA schedule is in front of us, and we're certainly looking forward to getting everything underway this week. Coach of Dickinson State University, his name is Pete Stanton. He'll join us momentarily here. Pat, of course, in with us, and of course, Coach Stanton. Coach, We appreciate you taking this opportunity to jump away or jump literally off the practice field to talk to us here on this program today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate having me on. And yeah, we just got practice number 2 in for the week with an odd schedule playing on Thursday on a Sunday afternoon practice, which we don't usually do. And today was our Tuesday to get ready.
Coach, thank you so much. It's great to spend some time with you a few minutes here. I know you're not busy at all right now. It's just kind of crazy that we're taking you away from your team, but we certainly appreciate it. Coach, people have no idea the hours coaches put in. And again, with a unique week this week, with you guys playing on Thursday, you're working here on a late Saturday or Sunday afternoon, preparing for this big football game. So again, can't thank you enough for taking the time.
You bet. You bet.
Coach, you've got Rocky Mountain on Thursday. The game, actually, I'm going to come out and check out. Rocky is one of those teams that, despite the fact they're not in your conference, really are a rival. You guys recruit the same areas. They're just right down the road in Billings. You guys are there in Dickinson. A lot of the same players that you go up against. You're vying to get into your program. So even though it's not a conference rivalry yet, it is very much a rivalry in the area. And how did this come about? Because it seems like there's been years where you have been able to play Rocky, years where you haven't. Is this something that, you and the athletic department with Dickinson and with Rocky have just said, hey, this is a game that needs to happen every year?
Yeah, no question. It's been a long-standing game. Every year for about 40 years. And then there's just a few times maybe where they had a money game or something didn't work out. I think once we got into about 2016, we played them pretty consistently, except for the COVID, when they didn't play in the fall and we did. And I think there's a couple year gap where we didn't play them. So yeah, they're a team that is very good. We've have, like, as you said, a great rivalry with them. We have about 50 Montana players on our roster. And so like last year when we played out in Billings and it was a great crowd and visiting with the Rocky folks, it was one of the better crowds that they've had. I think we had 1,000 fans out there at that game. It was just a great setting. So it's just a really good game for, as you said, for Western North Dakota, Eastern Montana, a lot of the same faces, a lot of the same recruits. We know each other well, and we've had a lot of battles, over the years. And 18 when they won the conference there, we were both in the playoffs that year. They beat us in a close game. 17, we beat them. I think they were second in the Frontier that year. The last 2 years, two times we played them, they beat us in the last play of the game. They kicked a field goal 2 years ago, or in 19, excuse me. And then last year, we went for 2 at the end, and they beat us by 1. So we've had some real great games with them there. They're an outstanding program.
Coach, sorry, Jason, go ahead.
You go right ahead, Pat.
I was going to, sorry about that. Yeah, Coach, you just touched on the game last year. Obviously a tough one. You going for 2, going for the win, and just falling a little bit short. But what a tremendous season your team had last year. Running the table. Only regular season loss you had last year was 2 of these guys. So now you got them at your place. I know your guys are really, really excited about this opportunity. Talk about kind of the lead up. You've had a tremendous run, had a great playoff season last year, but preparing now, knowing this would be game 1 in the off season. Talk about that and extra motivation, maybe just coming up a little bit short last year.
Yeah, it was a tough one last year and came down to the wire. We had a couple score lead, and credit Rocky, they came back and got out ahead of us. And as you said, we finished well. We came back, and 2 weeks later and had a gritty win over Wisconsin out on the road. We came from behind and won that game. And then I think that kind of set the tone for us the rest of the year. And then, of course, to go out in Montana Tech and get a win there was a big win for our program. So, and Rocky's a team that beat both Montana Tech and us last year. So they are a very explosive team, and a team, that has a veteran, quarterback in Buell back. He came in last year and did a great job for us. They have a receiving core that's unbelievable. Dwyer, leads them, but I think then their 3 receivers have, I think, 130 combined catches last year. They returned their receiving core, and we know we have a good challenge ahead of us, but we think it's going to be a great atmosphere. Coach and I decided we wanted to do this on a Thursday night, open up the year before the Labor Day weekend and before the high school teams play. And I think it's going to be a really, really great atmosphere out here. A lot of excitement building for this one.
Well, the last football game that I saw live in Dickinson. Well, Hank Bijou was still the head coach. You were obviously on staff, and it was a playoff game against Carroll College, I believe in 2004 or 2005, where Carroll won that game. I can't remember if that was a semifinal or quarterfinal game, but they advanced on. They ended up winning the NAIA title that year. I've seen Dickinson play since then, but it was at other away games that you had, Coach. So I'm excited to come back because even though I've seen it in person, I have not seen a football game in the complex there. And you guys have done a heck of a job over the years of taking what you have for a football facility and enhancing it and just making it a little bit better each and every year. Now, something you brought up when we were off air before the program is that homecoming picture that you've got behind you from 1934. Obviously, I'd make the joke, is Hank Bijou in that photo, but he's a Mayville State grad. But is that still the same site as as where you're playing at now, or was that a different site?
That would be the site right across the field. It would be where our practice fields are at right now. And then, Whitney Stadium came in the 1970s, and then the Bijou Activity Center. It was Badlands, and rightfully so, named after Coach Bijou later. We've been in that stadium since 2009, and we're very fortunate to have the support we have. We have, a great tailgate environment. We have 14 or 15 indoor suites there in the stadium. It's a beautiful facility that is supported by our community, and we're very fortunate to have what we have here.
Coach, doing some research on your bio and your history, you've been at that institution so long. You're an alumni. You play for Coach Bijou, like we just talked about, and coach for him for a lot of years now. It's your show. It's been that way since 2014, correct, Coach? You've been there since 2014, taking over for Coach. And,
Yes.
Talk about just the experience playing for Coach, coaching for him, and then now you taking this program the last handful of years and continue that great tradition.
Yeah, it was great. Going way back to when I played in the 80s, and Coach Bijou hasn't changed a bit. He was the same, and I guess the big thing with him is just always steady. You knew what you were going to get, and sometimes if you actually pitched the ball or ran an option play and pitched it, that was a risk. But he was he was going to be big on field position and be good on just being football games. Then, of course, it was one of the players after being in high school for 11 years, I was able to come back here in 2000 as an assistant coach, and I coached the linebackers and helped with the defense and special teams for several years, and just great to coach with. And he is who he is. Coach Bijou was just a great influence and role model for me. And I think it was easier that way taking over too, knowing I'd been a part of it for 14 years, before then. And, the transition was pretty smooth.
Let's talk about the game Thursday. Rocky's got quite a few really good ball players back. You touched on it, and Buell Kid at quarterback, who has had some tremendous games last year. You've returned a quarterback and a couple pretty good running backs and offensive linemen. What have you seen from fall camp, and how do you think your preparation has gone for this game?
Well, we got a veteran crew back. I think then the greatest words any coach at the beginning can say is we have an experienced all returning offensive line and a senior quarterback that takes care of the ball. And I think that's what we have coming back. Will Madler does a great job for us. He's very efficient, very solid, smart guy, plays under control, does a lot of things for us. And we return our entire offensive line is back, and our tight end group is back as well. So, that's obviously a plus going forward. Defensively, we return our whole linebacking core, and we lose our really good player in Crew Mattern, who's a two-time first-team All-American, but we do have 3 or 4 guys back in the secondary at the back end. We do have some pieces back. So, fall camp is good, veteran crew there, so they understand what's going on and what to expect. And we've just been really happy with the off season that we've had. We've had over 70 guys here during the summer, and our guys are ready to go. And as you said, Jason, a very formidable team with Rocky, a very explosive team, a team that gets the ball out and plays very aggressive on defense, do a great job on defense. Their corners that they have are outstanding. That Barnett at corners, a really good player. So we know we have a big challenge ahead of us, but we also know we have a veteran crew back and that has a lot of experience. So we're looking forward to it.
I was going to wait and see if you had anything, Pat, before I
Go ahead,
continue
Jason. Sorry.
to. All right.
Go ahead.
So the thing I have, respected about, you and your coaching career and what you've done at Dickinson State, you kind of, alluded to it a little bit there. You're preparing the team, you're doing all the things that you need to do the last couple of weeks to get ready for this game. But you're also the athletic director there. Prior to being athletic director and football coach, you coach several other things. You come from a coaching family. And I read and saw, I believe it was a news piece in Western North Dakota, because that's where I live and I read the news, just about, your family, your coaching family, the influences from Baker, Montana, Miles City, coming into Dickinson. I mean, talk a little bit about your personal coaching tree and the connections that you kind of have in that area of the country.
Yeah, we grew up in Eastern Montana. My dad was a long administrator and coach, and ironically was a basketball coach, and he warned us all not to go into to be a coach, but we all did. We all went into teaching and coaching, and I have three brothers that were very successful or are very successful coaches. My brother Dan was at Miles City in Eastern Montana for several years, won multiple state championships, and passed away in 2015. And the team that he beat in two state championship games in 2008 and 2010 was my older brother Jim's team at Billings Central. They went head to head in two state championship games, and put a lot of stress on my mother in those years with two of her sons in those championship games. And Jim is still there. My brother Jim at Billings Central and in Montana, I believe he's fourth all time in coaching wins in the state of Montana. And then my brother Rob, who ironically his son Connor is now on our team this year. He's just on our team at Billings West, has won state championships at Billings West in both track and football. So we were fortunate. That's all we were ever around growing up was sports, and we had great influences with my dad and with our high school coach, Coach Schillinger, and it's been a fun run.
Coach, I love that history. That's so cool. And hearing about your brothers, that's really a special thing. So kudos to your parents, raising guys that want to lead people like that. That's just tremendous. Coach,
Yeah.
Talking more about this season. Oh, sorry, Coach, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Just wanted to kind of lead us into, the last year of the North Star, a conference. This program has, I'll call it, you've owned it for a long, long time. Coach Bijou did it as well. And in the last handful of years of your program, obviously you're transitioning to move to the West there and be a part of the Frontier Conference, but talk about maybe the sentimental factor that this is the last year of that league that your program has been such a huge part of for so long.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's time to make that change. It's been good, and as Jason knows, in the past we had that DAC conference that was really a great league when we had that DAC 10, and 20 years ago until about 10 years ago, and then when we saw some teams transitioning Division II, we just lost those numbers, and so I think it's time. I think we're excited about the future. What we've always tried to do as a program is we want to play the best teams we can play. We play in our conference, and we've had some success, but every year that we've played, we've wanted to schedule Rocky. We played Western Montana for twice. We want to make, and we've played Montana Tech, and we've played Black Hill State, and we want to always make sure that we're playing the best teams out there. We've had several, I shouldn't say several, but we played Northwestern on conference a couple of years, and that's what we have to do. For us to get to where we want to get to in a program, as a program, we need to challenge ourselves and continue to play these good teams, and that's what we've tried to do. And sometimes had success, sometimes not, but I think it's made us better. But in going back to your Pat, as the league forms, I think that's going to be a good thing for 4 teams be joining the Frontier. Is going to give everybody stability. We're going to have that opportunity to be in an East-West conference and join, and Rocky and Montana Tech the first year in an East-West type of setting, and play a couple crossover games, and I think it's going to be good for everybody. Yeah, the travel's going to be interesting, but I think we've got some good solutions to that, and I think it's just going to give everybody a stability over here, and I think it's going to help make everybody better. You're going to play really good teams, and I think it's going to help everybody pick up their programs as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about what the future of the Frontier Conference looks like. I have to, pump the brakes a little bit because we still have this football season in front of us and we still have the North Star Athletic Association. Let's kind of end things talking about the conference a little bit. It's been you guys in Valley City State that have battled for so long in this conference, really to try to, get that automatic berth to the postseason to either win the conference or be high enough in the ratings. That's been thrown out now. Now it's whoever wins this conference. So you've got Valley to battle with. You've got an old foe in Jamestown back who's taken a temporary stop in the North Star before they move to Division II next year, who returns a quality program. Mayville State has quite a few starters back. We could be talking about them a little bit later in the season. And of course, a quality program in Dakota State, which Coach Anderson has been able to accomplish down there. They were a little down last year, but he's a quality coach that's going to have the guys going in the right direction. Just talk about the North Star, the last year of it, some of those competitive natures, and your thoughts on the conference for this year.
Yeah, no question. You're right on, Jason. Valley City is always a good program. Very, very competitive. We've had some great games with them over the years. Coach McCullough and Coach Horner and their crew do an outstanding job over the years. We've been able to come out on the top end, the last few years, but we always have a very good game with those guys. You mentioned Jamestown, before their transition to Division II, they're coming back in our league after being in the GPAC, and they and Valley were very even last year. And Jamestown, Coach Mister's done a great job with those guys. And I think you hit it with Mayville State. Coach Larson's done an outstanding job there. I know them and Valley were in a double overtime game last year. Turned a lot of starters, so I expect them to have a very good year. They've got a lot of good things going there. So we talk to our guys all the time. Just success is a process. Let's not get into what we want to do against Rocky. Let's not do what we want to do in the, as far as the conference. Let's talk about tomorrow. And this part of this process is we have to practice well tomorrow. We have to compete well tomorrow, and then things will take care of ourselves. We do things right in practice. We do things right preparing, and we get ourselves and our guys ready to go. That's what we talk about every day, and then and each week's going to take care of itself. So that that whole process is started this summer, started last spring, and now the focus is on tomorrow's practice, getting ready for Rocky. But we're certainly looking forward to a big year in the North Star to finish up this league. A lot of great memories in this league.
Love it, Coach. Absolutely great. Appreciate you taking the time to join us on this program as we get the opportunity to break down week one of the NAIA football season. Any last thoughts from you, Pat, before we wrap things up on tonight's show?
Coach, I want to wish you all the best. You do a wonderful job, first-class program, have been so stable for so long, and wish you all the best. Big game Thursday night. What a cool setting. Jason, I'm jealous that I can't be in the western part of North Dakota to experience that, but wish you all the best in a tremendous season this year, Coach.
And thanks to both of you guys. And we're going to take care of Jason on Thursday. We got a couple of guys already looking out for him at the tailgate and on the sidelines. We're going to take care of him with that Dickinson hospitality, but appreciate what you guys are doing to help the NAI, and it helps me as a coach and us as a program, what you guys are doing with us understanding and learning that we didn't have that in the past, to be able to learn about the programs maybe that we don't see every week. And we appreciate all you guys are doing to help the NAI and the programs as well.
We absolutely love it, Coach. Something that just kind of born out of Pat and I wanting to talk to one another, and now here we are talking NAI football every week. So I love it. I'm looking forward to getting out there Thursday, getting some Western North Dakota hospitality. It's going to be great. So for Pat Donley, for Coach Pete Stanton, this has been NAI Football with Dannelly and Donley. We will see you next Sunday at the same time and same place. Have a great week, everybody.